All right, let's see what is going on with fucking the Latinkses trying to kill men for
A
profit.
28-year-old software developer from Atlanta wakes up alone in a hotel room,
Oh no.
1,900
Oh.
975 miles from home. The room is just completely trashed and he has no memory of the night before.
Oh, shit.
Scrambling for a phone that is no longer there, he
Did a lot of
notices
drugs,
empty
yeah?
bottles on the nightstand,
Oh, yeah, I
sheets
did.
pulled off the bed, and panic starts to set in. He swipes the clothes on the floor to check for his wallet, his bag, even his expensive work watch, all gone. The more his eyes dart across the room looking around, the more painful his headache becomes. This wasn't a normal hangover. There's a metal taste in his mouth and his stomach is starting to cramp. Marcus
Ew.
can hardly think straight and just wants to
That
go
doesn't
home.
sound good.
But at least my passport is still secure, he thinks. But then he sees it. The door of the hotel's safe, wide open and empty. Anxiety turns to dread. They took everything. But just a few days ago, everything was fine. So what happened? His memory was blank besides the faintest hint of perfume and cigarette smoke. He closed his eyes and could hear the echo of clicking high heels on a marble floor, a woman's voice speaking rapid Spanish down the phone. And then from that, a word sounded through the pain in his head. It was a name, Camilla. A week
7
ago,
days
Marcus sat in
earlier.
his apartment staring at his phone in total silence.
This
He'd
is
been
what
messaging an
VTubers will
American
do to
woman
you
for
too.
2 weeks. It felt like real conversations, not just small talk. She'd
Content
actually
creators
engaged
in
with his
general.
story. She asked about his work and seemed genuinely interested in him. For the first time in months, he felt like maybe he was
Try to
getting
fucking
somewhere. Like
backstab
maybe
you.
he'd finally
Watch out.
broken through that invisible wall that seemed to exist between him and the opposite gender. After a couple of beers, he asked. A simple dinner invitation, nothing pushy. She read this message, and then there was no reply. A typical thing for him. Typical. He just had that feeling again that he couldn't shake. This woman was another in a sequence of rejection. His heart grew colder and his perspective dimmer and darker. Later that night, he found himself in a familiar territory. He'd been searching Medellin for months, partly because he'd heard good things from people he knew, but also because of the content that had been piped into his feed. Non-stop videos
Oh,
of these guys
wow.
filming themselves on GoPros, partying with beautiful women in exotic places, where you can
Find
just be
hot
with a beautiful,
Latinx
wholesome woman,
in your
drinking
area.
cheap beers on an exotic beach,
Find hot
speaking some
Latinx
broken
in
Spanish,
your area.
really just enjoying life. And
Don't
all
do
it seemed to
that.
take was a plane flight. Marcus
They
understood
fucked
that
up.
he was in a vulnerable state, but he just couldn't stop himself. How could you? How could you even resist the temptation of this? He'd started off just watching simple dating content or discussions on how romance in the Western world had changed.
He
But
fell
after
into
getting
the
recommended
rabbit
content
hole.
showing how much
That's
different
why.
dating abroad was, and the seemingly infinite upside you get as a
Oh,
young American
no.
bachelor with some cash, he grew
Oh,
more and more
no.
desperate, and now he just needed one little push. Maybe it was that last chat he had with the woman, or perhaps the powerful influences telling him how Western women take
Tried to
everything
buy an
from men
escort
give
and the
nothing
escort
back.
tried to
He
fucking
found his thoughts
off
changing.
tried to
Earlier
off
that
him.
very same day, he
Hitman
found
way.
himself snapping at another bland girl, spilling coffee in his arm. The same as all the rest, useless and out to get him. He didn't know what was happening to his mind, but he felt profanities echo around it in women's presence. Sinking another drink, his finger hovered over the confirm button for his flights.
Stop
And
it.
he
Never,
clicked.
never, whatever, you need to stop taking drugs and then doing stupid shit. You need to stop it. Okay.
In just a few hours, he
Yeah,
lands
it's
in
like that
Medellin.
whole
The heat
Ludwig
slaps him
and
in the
fucking
face, and he
Mango
knows he's somewhere
situation.
completely
Don't
different.
fucking be
and
like
he wasn't
those
the only
idiots.
one. There are about 8 to 9 single men also
I mean,
with
it's
him
more
from America
Ludwig's
in queue
fault,
near
but,
him,
yeah.
all likely going for the same reason. But he did know that over 1 million people visit this popular Colombian city every year. It's a tourist hotspot. He'd read about the world-class museums, the
And,
vibrant
like,
nightlife,
some of
and the
those people
stunning
are asking
architecture.
to get
The weather was
fucking,
perfect all year round. The
like,
food's exceptional.
crime
There's
to
amazing
to
coffee,
happen
and everything
to
costs a
them.
fraction of what
'Cause
you
all they
paid
do
back
is
home.
be on
But
the
if we're being
fucking
real,
internet
that wasn't the top of his mind right
and
now.
cause a
Marcus
bunch
had more
of
romantic
fucking
plans. Romance tourism to cities like
emotions
Medellin is a
and
movement that
events
spans
and
continents and crosses
where people are
borders.
getting
It's an
drunk
entire
and shit
industry of
and
people
drugged out of
foregoing
their
relationships
minds.
at home to take on something bolder and more fruitful abroad. Some actively embrace terms like passport
Being a
bros,
little
pushed by
crazy,
influencers
you know.
with massive followings who've turned this lifestyle into a business. The Our Passport Bros subreddit has grown to over 80,000 members in just a few years, creating an international network where countries are ranked on maps and experiences reports are shared for how great they are for men like Marcus. While Colombia has dominated the headlines, a few countries rank at the top of the best locations for passport bros, from Thailand to Vietnam to the Philippines and Brazil and even Eastern Europe. Some men actually go to this community and showcase their success.
Well, I mean, it's because it's because they don't see a lot of Americans, so they're like, oh, American.
Provides some value to other men looking to do the same.
Right, it's something different from what they originally have in their own country. Yes, so that's why they're all. That's why passport bros are big.
Thing, but not everyone is lucky. And then there's the opportunists.
Because you're foreigners.
Out of hundreds of people like Marcus and turning
foreigners sometimes have a lot of money
that serves them and not the vulnerable men they purport to care about. What Marcus didn't realize was that his arrival was predictable and hadn't gone unnoticed by those who'd learned to profit from young, vulnerable men. The digital pipeline that had delivered him here was just one side of an equation he didn't yet understand. But the course was set. One of the first things he did when he gets to Medellin was download Tinder. And suddenly like that, he was starting to get all these matches.
That's how it begins.
Matches with women he could never get back at home. And this is when he matched with a beautiful looking woman named Camilla on Tinder.
Yeah, because it's different, right?
At Hotel Dan Carlton.
Right, using Tinder in, say, America versus using Tinder in another country, yeah, different pool of people, yes.
She mentioned this had the best view in El Poblado, the main place for expats in Medellin, adding, "You'll love it." But unbeknownst to Marcus, that one simple message would change everything. Camilla watched Marcus's face light up when he saw her. He was nervous and couldn't believe how attractive she was. But for Camilla, this was just another tourist, another rooftop bar, and another performance. She was just 24, but she'd been doing this for at least 2 years now. She studied nursing during the day. That part was always true when she told them. But in the evening, she worked a different kind of shift. She wasn't necessarily a prostitute, at least not exactly. She told herself that distinction mattered. She was more like a tour guide. Camilla put Marcus told him how excited she was to show him her city. And it wasn't entirely fake.
Tour around
genuinely interested in what she had
her
to say.
destination.
And after a few drinks, she could see his confidence returning. In another life, maybe this could have all been real. But tonight was different for Camilla. She never lets those thoughts get to her for too long, as she's been discussing a new technique with her friends the night before. Something industrially efficient.
More techniques,
her friend Isabella had been using this for months. She'd shown Camilla the small vial of white powder, explaining how just a tiny amount could render a man completely compliant. With that, you can kill 10 people, but it's better in powder form. You rub it on their chest, Isabella explained. The substance came from the bolachero tree, drunken binge, that grew wild throughout Colombia. It produces beautiful white bell-shaped flowers that hang like lamps. In the West, it's better known as datura or the angel's trumpet. But Camilla knew it by a street name, devil's breath. Most call it scopolamine. It's tasteless, odorless, and you can hide it on a business card and just blow it in someone's face. And the results of this can be described as zombification. Within minutes, victims enter a state of zombie-like compliance.
It's like
they'll hand over their valuables willingly, follow instructions without question, even withdrawing their money from ATMs with their captors standing right beside them. 50 milligrams of it can kill you, but deaths are pretty rare. Victims usually just stay compliant longer. Some reports still feeling the effects of the high for 15 days.
Zombification.
When victims do eventually wake up, sometimes 24 hours later, they remember absolutely nothing. It literally blocks the neurotransmitters in the brain responsible for recording memory. The US State Department reports unofficial estimates of 50,000 scopolamine incidences per year in Colombia, more than 130 every single day. According to the National Police, a scopolamine attack occurs every 10 hours in Bogota, with police admitting the vast majority of incidences are men poisoned by women from small street gangs called micro cartels. Camilla studied Marcus across the table as he talked about his work, his hopes for the trip, but he just had no idea what was coming, or that there was an entire industry preying on people like
That's why you don't have
calculated at this point.
A lot of those
she felt glimpses of something
plants
else, pity, maybe even guilt. But
being,
once again, she knew how to dull those doubts. After all, she hadn't planned for her life to turn out this way. And Marcus had come
grown in the United States.
Right?
They're all
from
outside
the same table.
Right, they're
and
all
she
from
wasn't really
countries.
caring about what he was saying. It was just time to
like
move.
the coca
So she
leaves and
excused
shit.
herself
we
to
don't
the
have
bathroom,
any of those.
did the end of a cigarette into
because
the powder,
it's just
then
how
returned
dangerous
with a
that shit
smile.
is.
When I step outside for some air? 50
There's
minutes
people trying to
passed and she- the
concoct
change
like
happened
poison and
exactly
trying
as
to
Isabella
fucking
had
kill people,
described.
yeah.
Marcus looked up at her, confused for half a second, then with that glazed expression she'd been told to expect. "Let's go somewhere quieter," she said. He nodded like a child and just followed her. Now by this point, Marcus clearly found himself in an extremely dangerous position as they got into the cab. He was sucked in, and you could even say lured in, by a powerful travel industry built around dating abroad. But behind the soft lighting, the palm trees, and the smiling local women and influencer videos is a huge growing business. One that turns
it's a
male
fucking-
loneliness into
right.
views, subscriptions, and paid coaching funnels. Romance tourism has always
Yeah,
been
it's a
popular, but
tourism,
love is one of
yeah,
the most
thing.
easily corrupted emotions. One of the main things you can manipulate men with, and it's manifested itself as an industry of mixed.
That's
and often
why
dark
you should
intent.
always
Women abroad like Camilla are
That's
depicted
why
as
when doing
respectful
certain
men in a way that
tourism,
those
you
at
should
home
always
aren't.
do your
They're
research.
receptive. But some just depict them as
Always
just
make sure
easy
to
pick
stay
up.
in
Some have actually
certain,
been
like,
accused of using the same women in their
well-reputed
videos while
areas.
paying them to
That's-
join as a
that's
part of their
not
marketing
very
game. The same
crime-ridden,
influencers who claim
yeah.
women in other countries respect men more are often the same ones who are seen with multiple women on each arm. They're picking up women in the street, showing how easy it is to hook up. Most of all, they just make you look so effortless. If you have a
Stick
Western
to
passport,
certain
you'll
areas,
get the
don't-
hottest women. You just stop them in the street, chat to them, and that's all
Don't
you
go
need to
too
do.
deep
Even
into-
just doing this in English, not speaking their native
Right,
language.
areas
Just
that
be
are
confident and it will
known to
all
be,
fall into place. Oh, and maybe pick
sketchy.
up their course for $1,000 a month just to be sure you get all of their tips. The dangers of this just can't be ignored. Many warn followers to take a picture of a girl's ID before bringing them home. Some joke about getting scoped, drugged, and robbed, like it was just part of the adventure. For some, it's part of the thrill. You'd think people
Oh,
like
no,
Camilla
you
would
gotta
be more
really
aware
be
of these
careful
stories
when
than
you
Marcus,
go,
but the
right,
influencers tell these
traveling
stories
outside
as
the
if they were some
country.
funny holiday event.
There's not a doubt
yeah,
about
no.
it. Colombian women are the most beautiful women in the world, but they're also the most dangerous. You never know.
I mean, just
when they
like
might slip your
in
drink.
right, just like in
You
the
never
United
know.
States, you
might
gotta be
wake up
careful
without
too.
your phone, your iPad, your credit card's missing.
Any
$5,000
country,
in cash.
you gotta be
You
careful.
You go scoping
I
me.
got scoped
No,
here
happened
don't
2 years
fuck
ago.
around. You fuck
That's the
you
coolest
fuck
part.
with
I
the
don't know what
wrong
happened.
people, they'll fuck you
I
up.
woke up without my
Yeah,
shit.
women of the
Darkest
night,
truth,
don't
some
fuck
romance
with
tourists
women
like
of the
Marcus
night.
never actually
You're
come
gonna get
home.
some
People in
STDs.
Marcus's position, following the advice of men who apparently care about their love lives, have suffered horrible endings while in their pursuits of respectful women. Take the tragic story of Paul Nguyen, a 27-year-old logistics consultant from California who didn't return to his Airbnb after going on a Tinder date in 2022. He'd taken a Snapchat photo of his date, a slim brown-haired woman in a white jacket. The next morning, he didn't return to the Airbnb and his friends raised an alarm. It turned out that his credit card was used multiple times in odd late-night transactions. 12 hours later, his body was then discovered
Found.
behind a trash bin 5 miles away from the bar.
The family of a young man from Orange County is struggling with their grief and at the
Let me
same
guess, the
time
credit
trying
card
to
was
find
still
out
being
how
used
and
as
why
well.
he was killed while on vacation in Colombia.
Then there was Tao Xiong, a 50-year-old Minnesota comedian who called his family in December 2023 saying he needed $2,000 because he'd been kidnapped. The family then sent the money through PayPal immediately, but it wasn't enough. The next morning, his body was found at the bottom of a ravine near the Robledo district. He'd been tied, tortured, stabbed, and then thrown 260 feet down a cliff.
Jesus.
Other survivors described the same pattern. A 28-year-old businessman, also a victim of scopolamine in Colombia, told reporters, quote, "I
Man,
matched with a girl on Tinder.
them
Just
Colombians
another
don't
girl I
give a
thought,
shit.
just
They'll
another
fucking
date.
torture
He
you
took
and
my
throw your
iPad,
fucking
my
body
phone, my
out.
wallet, my credit cards, my ID, everything
Mafia
but my
status,
laptop."
literally.
And if you're shocked by these two men dying in the pursuit of pleasure, it's more common than you might think. And this issue may lay a lot closer to home than imagined.
Oh, it's more
Porn
like
addiction will mentally kill you long
gang-related
before you reach the same fate as
incidences,
these
right?
guys. Quitter is on a mission to take over the industry.
'Cause usually
help men
these people are
regain
not
control of
alone,
their lives
right?
and
To
finally
do all
break
that
free
shit,
from
to
this
torture
evil
you and
habit.
do all that
With
shit?
their
No,
in-app
yeah, no.
28-day challenge,
They're-
500,000 men have already seen incredible
It's like a
changes in
group
their
of-
lives,
right, it's like
with
a team of
increased
people.
discipline, improvement in ED, and confidence
You're
in
dealing with
themselves
like
and
a
in talking
gang,
to women.
basically.
Quitting porn doesn't have to be difficult, and with Quitter's cutting-edge app, 28 days is all it takes to enjoy the physical and mental benefits. Now you might be thinking, how do I know if I need help? Well,
No,
with
don't give me
Quizz's
this
free
ad.
prediction quiz, you can see how your habits compare to the 500,000 men that they have helped
Especially
overcome
when
their
there's a
addiction. All
bunch
you
of
have to do is download
crime
the
you're
subscription, download the
talking
app, and complete
about
the test. Today is the day you'll
that
stop saying
people
halfway tomorrow
getting
and regain
got.
control before it's too late. Like others before him, Marcus had been sold the dream of finding true love and delivered as prey. Now, as he was led out of the cab into his hotel room by Camilla, he found himself at the mercy of forces above what he didn't foresee. You see, Camilla had actually tried OnlyFans as an escape route when she was younger, but this was way more effective. She was so close to finishing her nursing degree, but without tuition money, she'd have to drop out. Like so many countries targeted by romance tourists, most of the Colombian population is below the poverty line. Not many weeks ago, she created her first dating profile and joined a different kind of pipeline, a network of women targeting gringos. Not always Americans, but any foreigner with hard currency who was naive enough to really believe they'd found true love. So here's what's really happening.
Yeah, that's why you,
yeah,
even passport bros, that's why you still have to be
Colombia and
careful
other
when
dangerous
still
countries in a similar
traveling
way.
abroad.
Local
right?
networks are
Because
working
there
and
are
studying
these
these
sort
men
of
who deliver
networks
these
where they
dreams.
do this
They
kind of
want you
shit.
to believe in an image so that they can milk you. The system for exploiting men on the ground in places like Colombia has evolved around the same time as the male loneliness epidemic, the one that these influencers
the crime
get paid
industry
from.
is
While
big.
online opportunities cultivated men like Marcus for months, local networks had learned to position themselves at the end of that pipeline, ready to extract their own value. In Colombia, some women work alone, others with gangs. Journalists in Medellin have even uncovered gang bosses like the so-called Queen of Scopolamine, a serial killer who killed between 5 to 6 men, although according to her court testimony, there
was a
were
real
a considerable
femme
amount
fatale,
of others. Now, of course, Colombian authorities are aware of this problem, but they're overwhelmed. In a city with more than 25,000 reported robberies annually, only a fraction ever lead to arrests.
Yeah,
And most
even
of the time,
in
nobody's talking
Mexico,
to the police. They're completely
right, the
corrupt.
Sicarios.
But that's not the point. Why are these men coming here in the first place?
Even
What
they
is pushing them here?
do
Is
the same
dating
shit
that
like
bad
that.
in the West now that we need to find other poor countries where we can finally feel validated and actually find true love? What this shows is what's lacking in men today in the West.
in
They feel
reality,
so
all
compelled to go
countries
to
have
dangerous
this
countries
problem.
like these to find love, all because the people they interact with in their own countries seems to always reject
Or they
them,
try
or
to
just
get
be people they can't have any
unsuspecting
real
tourists
connection
and
with.
shit, and
Because
then,
this isn't
right,
just
take them for
happening
a
in
ride.
Medellin, but it's also now starting to happen in many other cities around the world, targeting these Western tourists, from Manila to Bangkok. So cracking down too hard on the very image of warm hospitality is a complicated business. Even Camilla, who's stuck in this web just like Marcus, as she's had to grow up in a country ravaged by drug cartels and obviously in a third world bad situation. She realized she would make a year's wage in a night if she performed the fantasy people like Marcus had built before stepping off the plane. And of course, it's just business for these people, executing a usual strategy, walking Marcus to numerous ATMs to get money out for what she told him repeatedly was more drinks, walking back to his hotel room, plastering him with more drinks to keep him compliant as she systematically ransacked his room. She then coerced him into opening his safe to access his passport and rummaged through his belongings for anything with any semblance of resale value, while Marcus spent most of the time slurring and flopping around on the floor between being sick. Then, after locking him away helplessly in a wrecked room, she left to pay some of her bosses, as you can't do many of these things without others noticing and demanding their cut. But the fact that this is even an industry in the first place is really an indictment to how bad dating must be in the West.
They're like
If
being
people are going to
poured
obviously
out,
dangerous
they're
countries to do this sort of thing, and it's so common
getting
that there's now
pimped.
an entire criminal economy around this stuff, shows there must be some issue at home if so many guys are falling into this
The
trap.
pimp wants their
The modern
money,
dating
and if you
crisis
don't
and
give
the
them
growing
their money,
loneliness
they'll fucking
epidemic
bitch slap
quietly
you.
leading to
They're
more and
gonna
more of
keep
these
their pimp
cases.
pants strong. Yeah.
Faced with rejection, social isolation, and a collapsing sense of purpose in the West, many men are just fleeing to these countries where dating feels more traditional, connection more accessible, and finally gaining a sense of love, spurred on by influencers creating this echo chamber and this illusion that it's just impossible to find love in the West anymore. And in doing so, this is
Yeah, I
creating
hate
a
to say it,
global
but if
issue
you're
that's
like
only getting
going to be a
so much
passport
worse.
bro,
In Brazil, the US
yeah,
consulate in
trying
Rio
to fucking
recently issued
settle
a warning
down
about
with
drugging dating
those type,
scams
yeah, no,
targeting
that's not gonna
tourists.
happen.
Criminals seduce foreign men,
Trying to
slip
find
sedatives
a
into their
right,
drinks,
trying to
then
find a partner to settle down with is not going to be easy.
use them and rob them in hotels.
I mean, yeah, some people get some right love at first sight and bullshit like that sometimes, but yeah, Not everyone's like that, right?
horrors. We also see this in Bangkok and Bali, the same devil breath style scams, where victims are stumbling around like zombies, being completely controlled, their cards maxed out, and sometimes even overdose deaths. Medellin is just the most visible example, with 8 Americans vanished at once in late 2023, bringing the total to 29 deaths in recent years. It's so bad that even Tinder now has to place warnings on the app. On Facebook, we can see a private scopolamine victim spread.
Well, I mean,
that has
it's
more than
just because of
5,000
all
members
the
sharing
right,
stories
the
and
fraudulent
lookouts.
posts.
Thousands more warning about this on the Possible Bros Reddit itself. And while most survive, living with this kind of experience would be difficult for anyone, especially those most lonely and unloved. And now staring at the ceiling of his own flat rather than
they try to get lonely people.
Marcus is learning the
That's who they're
hardest lesson of
targeting.
all. Sometimes when you think you're the customer, you're actually the product just being sold.
Correct. You're a piece of fresh meat to be used. You are cattle. Right. Say no to something. Yeah, well, it's not even that. It's just people desiring something, and then they try and go and acquire it, and then sometimes when they go and acquire it, well, they tick the wrong. They get the unsuspecting treatment of falling into a trap, right? And well, yeah, shit happens. You got some people out there who just want to do harm to humans, do harm to the people, and take money, take people's lives, hold people hostage. Basically doing like human trafficking shit, essentially. But yeah, that's the criminal criminal syndicate, right? They do a lot of fucking crazy shit. Moon, give a like and subscribe if you want to see more this type of content, right? He just does a bunch of just whatever, really. A lot of just news-ish stuff, right? Deep dive, in a sense, deep dives, I guess you could say. There you go.